Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now, let the stories begin. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Celebration of You. And as always, I like to pause before I introduce you to the incredible guest on today's show and thank every human being out there all over the world. We are in over 160 countries, and it's all because of you. And I truly say this show was a mission on my heart, a nudge from above, to celebrate and share stories of incredible people who I feel blessed to meet along this journey, that their story can bring hope. And I can honestly tell you that I'm getting goosebumps already because I haven't even introduced this. He's soon to become one of my new best friends. He just doesn't know it yet. Well, I think he already knows it. But this incredible man that I feel so blessed to celebrate today. And I know many of you tell me you listen to the show weekly and you listen to it when you're doing your exercise or you do your own lunch and learn. I just want you to prepare yourself because I think this might be one of the most magnificent human beings I've ever had the privilege of bringing their story to the world. So Thomas Smith, thank you, my new friend, for being here.
Holly, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. And I just have to know, before we start, where are you sitting in this world today? Where are you?
So I am just north of Boston, Massachusetts, in a small coastal town called Marblehead.
Well, you live in a beautiful area, and I'm in Boston quite a bit and up in that area, so I think I need to let you know when I'm near you the next time.
Absolutely. It's not a bad time to visit Boston between September and October. It's kind of like our last little bit of nice weather, if you will, and enjoyment before the winter comes. So it's not a bad place to be right now.
No, and it's funny you just said that. I'm actually having a moment, Thomas, because literally about an hour ago, just got a request to speak in Boston. And I laughingly told the team to please give them options. Either it's going to happen before November 1st or we'll wait till March.
Well, good thinking. I can concur and agree with you and totally support you in that.
I just love the serendipitous timing that you just said this. And I'm like, oh, and I just answered that. I just replied like that. Yeah. Well, I don't even know the magnitude, and I laugh, I cry, we go through all the emotions, but your story, all I know is you're truly a miracle on this earth. And I know you said to me, everyone's a miracle, but your story is so profound. And I want to talk about so many people, Thomas, and I am like myself, I have a dream to start Holly's Hope. And you have a foundation that is thriving and making a difference because you chose to make your life about helping others. And it's the Thomas E. Foundation. And I'd like for you to tell us just a little bit about the foundation today, and then we'll get into why this foundation exists. So tell us about it as of today.
Sure. So I co-founded the Thomas E. Smith Foundation with one of my good friends, Tucker Mullen. And to date, we've donated over $375,000 to those suffering from paralysis as well as paralysis medical research. And we like to refer to ourselves as a philanthropic entrepreneurial foundation because I think it's very common when something happens to want to help, right? Whether someone gets diagnosed with an illness or paralysis, or you have this moment in your life when you say, okay, I want to do something that's bigger than myself. But the reality is that so many people have so many amazing stories, and there's so many foundations out there. So you get to your 2-3 year mark and a lot of these foundations, unfortunately, they'll start to hit a downward spiral and, no longer exist. And for us, I'm very blessed to say, we've been around for 10 years, and the only way that we will, in my opinion, go away and no longer exist is our goal. and that's to go out of business. And when we go out of business, that's when we'll have a cure for paralysis. So until then, we will keep fighting. And, some of our platforms that some of the listeners might have heard of us is we founded the Lookup Line in 2012, which is ice hockey's first ever warning track. It's a patented 40-inch warning track that gets installed inside of hockey rinks, and it's been installed in hockey rinks across the United States, in Canada. The NHL skated on one of the prototypes we had on it in their prospects games a couple of years ago in Nashville, Tennessee. It's been tested at the NCAA level, the amateur level, Hockey Canada level. So that was kind of our explosion, if you will, when we started getting the notoriety from major media and international attention. That's we amazing. Founded a division of the foundation called Dance for Paralysis, where we work with different entertainment artists and work with the different groups to pull ancillary factors from the show, whether it be a portion of their merchandise, ticket proceeds, a straight donation, to really just have a fun philanthropic way to celebrate those with paralysis and give them an opportunity to attend concerts and, just have really a night where they can enjoy themselves and have a meet and greet with the artist.
This is amazing. Like, I don't think this is why I don't want to know too much. I had no idea the magnitude of what you guys are doing with this foundation and the degree of where you've expanded this. And you know what, Thomas, I just have to say you're the first person, and I was chuckling and smiling as you said it, and I don't want anybody to miss it. Our goal is when we go out of business.
No, it's true. I mean, it's we have a lot of fun with the foundation. And what I mean by that is it can be a very, paralysis, no matter how you spin it, is a horrible situation. But our mission with the foundation is to take a horrible situation and make it a little less horrible. And for myself, and I will include Tucker in this because I think Tucker's the closest person to having paralysis without actually having the injury with how close we are. But with someone that's had the levels of paralysis that I've had, and to provide that sense of hope, it's very fulfilling, and it's really been my purpose since my accidents, and something that I'm very proud of.
Oh, as you should be. And now it's time, because I know everybody listening's like, okay, you don't just go start this passion, but what I want to prepare everybody for is, Thomas, I love that you've taken where your passion was with ice hockey, right? And this amazing gift and talent. And then you've turned it into creating, this product. So not only the foundation, but what you're doing to continue to live in that passion. But your first, by the way, I'll just tell everybody, Thomas has had 3 accidents of being paralyzed 3 different times. And Thomas, I don't know a human being that's made it through one and alive to talk about it the way you are. So shall we start? I mean, where do we begin? Is it go back to 2008? Can you take us through the first accident?
Yeah, growing up in Boston, sports are a pretty big part of our culture. And I just happened to really excel at hockey and had the opportunity in high school to attend a New England prep school where, I hit different benchmarks that I had to meet in order to play at the next level. And it was really my junior year when I received my first letter of interest from Yale University. And I remember the first line, it said, you have been recognized by our program as a Division I hockey player. And for me, it was a moment that I said, wow, my hard work's starting to pay off. So, I go through my senior year and things are starting to continue to gain momentum. And like many athletes in the hockey world, we tend to, after high school, do a year or 2 of what they call junior hockey to gain the extra maturity and level of competition that is junior hockey. So I went down that same route, and I signed with a junior A team out of Salem, New Hampshire. And I was in my second tournament with them, a tournament called Hockey Night in Boston. And it was the 3rd period of a game. I'm skating down after an opposing player who's on a breakaway, and our goalie comes out to poke check the puck. The 3 of us meet, and to avoid the collision, I tried to jump over the 2 of them as they were falling. And the last thing I really remember is my skates hitting the goalie's helmet. And what happened was my skates hit the goalie's helmet and I went airborne head first into the boards. And it was obviously a chaotic scene. And they rushed me to a hospital nearby where they diagnosed my condition as being a lot more severe than anyone had hoped. So they transported me to Boston, Massachusetts, where they diagnosed me with injuries to the upper part of my neck and diagnosed me with spinal shock, swelling, and bruising along the spinal cord.
Wow.
And so I spent several days in the hospital and then got transported to a pretty world-renowned rehabilitation center called Spalding. Spent a little over 2 weeks there. And at that point in time, I was starting to gain mobility and function back because my injury was incomplete.
What does that mean when you say incomplete, Thomas?
Good question. So a complete injury with paralysis is you sever your spinal cord. Oh. And incomplete is that you do not sever the cord. So in terms of severity, complete is worse than incomplete. Okay. And I had an incomplete injury, but a lot of, when I say worse, they don't have a cure yet to reestablish the function when a spinal cord is severed. But there are hundreds of thousands of people out there that have incomplete injuries that are paralyzed. So my injury, for as unlucky as I was for having this accident, I'm very lucky that it wasn't complete. So as I'm going through the rehabilitation, I'm starting to gain back mobility. But Holly, it was pretty scary because if I, were to stand with assistance or whatnot, I had such bad spasticity that you would have, said, Tom, please sit down. This just doesn't look right. And so that it was a pretty bad situation. So after several weeks in rehab, I get released home and I get put into an outpatient program in a facility nearby my parents' house. And I wasn't making much progress. And so I'm having these, outbursts mentally. My accident isn't conducive with the diagnosis and nothing is going as planned. Mm-hmm. So I have a meeting with the doctors in Boston and they said, Tom, the tricky thing about incomplete injuries is there is no sever of the spinal cord and there can be so much added swelling and whatnot that in a couple of years you could actually become permanently paralyzed when the nerves die and drown and whatnot. Oh. I remember sitting there with my parents and we didn't let the doctor mince another word. We got up and he was getting ready to hand us, basically a brochure to get the house renovated, put in an elevator, get ramps put in. So, this was going to be my future. And we didn't let him get out another word. We got up and said, you know what? Thank you very much. You'll never see us again, basically.
Oh, I love your parents already. Oh my gosh. Right. Oh.
Yes. It was a moment that we said, look, if there is a bit of hope, which I think no matter how horrible the situation, you have to have hope. And we said, we're going to put our best foot forward. And if the hospital we're at doesn't have the proper resources, we're going to go try to find it. And so it was kind of a mad dash, if you will, with calling anyone and everyone that we knew that had connections in the healthcare field. And so through a family friend, we got connected with this place in Miami, Florida. Now I'm in Boston, Massachusetts at this point.
And how many days, I like specifics and get into the details. How long has it been since the actual accident that you walked out of that doctor's office?
Sure. About 2 months.
Okay. So we're 2 months in. Now you're getting connected with somebody in Miami. Mm-hmm. Okay. See, I'm into details, Thomas. You've got me. Yep. Okay. All right.
Yep. So I'm walking with assistance at that point, and we start calling everyone who we know, and we get hooked up with this place called the Miami Project to Cure Paralysis. It's the world's most comprehensive research center for those with spinal cord injuries. And it was interesting because, unfortunately, there's not many of these paralysis specialized hospitals in the country. So there was a waiting list to get in. But because of my condition and my age and really what the doctors thought they could do, they expedited the process of getting me in. So I got flown immediately from Boston to Miami, where my doctor, who's the co-founder of the Miami Project, Dr. Barth Green, saw me, and they did, several scans that day. And he said to me, I'll never forget this doctor's appointment once I was in Miami. He said to me, he said, Tom, your injury is so unique because not only do you have bruising, swelling along the spinal cord, but he said if it wasn't, for your age and your youth and whatnot, it could have been a lot worse. And he said, I'm not going to tell you that everything's going to get better tomorrow, but I can tell you if I don't get you back on skates, I didn't do my job.
Wow. Get you back on skates. And at this point, you're walking with assistance. Never imagined you back on skates. You dreamed it, right?
Well, not only did I dream it, but you have to, go back 2 weeks. We have a doctor who's getting ready to hand my parents a pamphlet to get the house renovated with elevators and ramps to, my life is going to be, inevitably in a wheelchair. Now I have this guy saying if he doesn't get me back on skates, I didn't do my job. I'm like, holy moly! Like this is the guy. This is the player I want on my team. This is the coach I want. Driving this effort. So I said to myself, and I said, you know what? If Dr. Green thinks he can, perform a miracle and put me in a lot of the, experimental therapeutic programs that are happening down in Miami, I have to give it a shot. And so I ended up enrolling in their treatment, and my brother actually was a student at Florida Atlantic University. So he had a house in Delray Beach. So it was about an hour and 20 minutes north, hour and 15 minutes north of Miami. And so I was able to stay with him, and my daily routine was I would go from Delray to Miami, perform, about 3-4 hours of therapy, have lunch, go back to Delray, do about 2 hours of aquatic therapy in the complex that my brother had his house at. And then there was a Gold's Gym about 3 blocks away from the house, and I'd have dinner and then finish out my day going to the gym. And so it was about, wow, minimum of 6, as many as 9 or 10 hours of therapy, 5 days a week that I was putting, my body through, and that the doctors had programs for. And it was a pretty intense routine.
I can't even fathom this. I'm just picturing you. You talk about determination, grit, resilience, and then combine that all with hope. You never gave up hope. This is unbelievable. So that's the summer, right? You're in the summer.
So yeah. Well, at this point, we're actually, so if you fast forward, so we're in October, I go through several months of rehab. And then so fast forward to about a week before Christmas.
Okay.
And I had my doc's appointment with Dr. Green. And at that point, just to give the listeners an idea of physically where I was at, I was walking without assistance, but my gait pattern, and so like when you place your feet one foot in front of the other, that wasn't perfect. And so the actual rhythm of my stride was still off, but I could safely get around. So the Dr. Green said, he said, Tom, if you want to go home for Christmas, you can, which was the best Christmas present ever. And he said, but you have to come down for 7 to 10 days every month to continue the treatment. And they had a whole workout program for me at home where I was, I had to sign up to our local gym, have aquatic therapy, had assistants doing that. So it was really an extension of the program going back to Boston, but I had to fly back down and go through Dr. Green and the Miami Project's treatment, which I did. So January 2009, I go back down, continue the therapy, February continue, and then in March, really started making progress where my gait pattern was getting a lot better. A thing I really had problems with was walking backwards. That was getting better. And in April, I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, this actually might not be some far-fetched fallacy of me going and being able to live a quote unquote normal life. And so it was in May, my parents came down and we had a meeting with Dr. Green and the attorneys from the hospital there, the doctors that were studying my case. And he said, Tom, you are literally a walking miracle. We're signing off on everything in terms of your ability to not only go back to hockey. They did scans. The injury that I had sustained was healed. I had gone through an extensive brain therapy with the different psychologists at Miami, because what they didn't diagnose me in Boston, but they diagnosed it very quickly when I was in Miami, was I had a serious head injury and concussion. So we were using basically the same tools as they use for the Miami Dolphins and the University of Miami Hurricanes. I was working with those doctors to try to restore some of the memory function and whatnot. And so everything, I had passed all the tests, and the scans came back negative, that everything was healed. So he said, Tom, I am going to clear you as of July of 2009. So in 2 months, I'm going to clear you to go back to hockey. And if you want to live your dream and try to obtain your Division I scholarship, you go do that.
Wow. Wow.
And so, Holly, it's interesting because a lot of people, when I say that, they say, why'd you go back? I mean, you have this second opportunity and this the ability to live a normal life, and you've beaten paralysis, which, virtually no one does. Why'd you take that risk? And growing up, hockey was my identity. It was who I was. It was everything I thought I was good at, and it was my gateway to do better in all facets of life. So I was a good student. I wasn't a great student, but Yale University was looking at me to get into their school and obviously join their hockey program. And hockey was that vehicle that allowed me to get above the Ivy mean to, even be considered to be accepting into the school. So it was, again, I can't stress enough, it was a vehicle for me to do better in all facets of life. So, and on the flip side of that, we all know how expensive college is. I'm thinking to myself, this is an opportunity to get a $200,000 check, of college paid for, and say, Mom and Dad, any of the college money that you had saved, put it towards a vacation home. That's what I want you to do. Go buy yourself a vacation home. And so for me, there would have been no greater gift. So when I got that opportunity, I said, you know what, I'm going to take it. If I'm no more susceptible than the average person to get hurt again, I'm going to go for it. So we start training camp in July, and everything, starting to come back. And the week before Labor Day in August of 2009, we were testing out and with my teammates, and I tested out as amongst the strongest and fastest in my group of hockey players.
Really? You, at this point, I mean, I'm sorry, but this is like profound. You're back in this. And I actually have no doubt. I wouldn't even have questioned, why did you go back? And maybe that's just the journey of my life, right? Like, I get that was your passion, but the fact that you're there with all these other hockey players who have not been through anything that you've been through, and you're testing out faster and stronger. Okay. That's mind boggling. Right?
Yeah, it really was. But I think it's a testament to the program that they have in Miami, but also what I was doing outside of the program, between the aquatic therapy and then going to the Gold's Gym, and really just not taking no for an answer. And when I got that opportunity in May to be cleared to play in July, I said, you know what, I'm just going to keep going and pour literally, from sunrise to sunset. This is, eat, sleep, breathe hockey. And so it was a great moment when we got the results back that I was among, the top in my group to test out. And so we go to Labor Day and play in, I think it was 4 or 5 games. Everything went great. The month of September was going amazing. And October 1st, 2009, we were getting ready the next day to play one of our arch rivals. And we're, practicing, and we used to do this thing. It was called a hard lap. So we'd skate as fast as we could in between drills around the rink in order to build, your cardiovascular system and conditioning and all of that. And so I did my hard lap, and I'm taking my last turn, and I'm with one of my best friends, one of my teammates, and our skates got entangled in each other. He went into the board's feet first, and I went into the board's head first. And
I'm just sitting here covered with goosebumps.
And as soon as I hit the boards, I knew I was paralyzed.
Oh, can you remember that?
So my second injury, Holly, when I hit the boards, I remember the whole thing. My first injury, I don't remember a thing. I had such a bad concussion. My second injury, I remember the entire situation. I can tell you that, I can tell you which coach took off my helmet. I can tell you that my face was on the ice and I could feel it melting the ice. I can tell you that when they called in the medical helicopter to airlift me, I remember it coming down in the parking lot. And I can tell you that when I was leaving the rink, it was raining out. And I remember the drops hitting my face. And when I was in the helicopter, I remember obviously getting emotional and whatnot. And when I got to Boston, they flew me to Boston Medical Center. So from Salem, New Hampshire, where I was playing, to Boston Medical Center. And when I landed in Boston, the doctors, were getting ready to perform surgery and figuring out what was happening and whatnot. And so when they started my scans, they started at the top of my neck and moved down. And when they looked at the cervical area, everyone was dumbfounded. And they said, well, he hurt the top of his neck last time. Where's the injury? Because everyone was like, it's got to be something to do, this is a cause of the last accident. And so as they moved down my back, they saw that I had basically chipped off a piece of what they call T3, which is in between your shoulder blades. And the doctors came out and they were talking to my parents and they said, Tom had a better chance of winning the lottery 5 times in a row than having 2 separate accidents totally unrelated.
Unbelievable. Tom. Oh my God. I'm actually speechless right now.
Oh. Yeah. Well, at that point, as an athlete, so my paralysis after the second accident is I'm paralyzed from my waist down, completely paralyzed. And so
and sorry, you just educated me on something. So now I have to know. So was this second injury then considered a complete or an incomplete?
Really good question. So even though there was bone damage and nerve damage, I still didn't cut my spinal cord in half.
Which is a miracle. It's a miracle, but okay.
Yes, all right. Absolute miracle. Still considered an incomplete, but there are people, that have injuries that aren't as worse as mine, that have, more, that are physically challenged more than I am. So it was a bad situation, but again, because I was an athlete and a lot of things, for as unlike as I was, were working in my favor. My paralysis was at my waist level down. So I had to kind of figure out what I was going to do and what my purpose in life was. But to get to that point, the first couple of weeks in the hospital were extremely chaotic. I didn't want to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
I was taking a lot of aggression out on my family, along the great doctors and therapists who were trying to help me. It was just not a good situation. And I will share 2 stories with you that, were turning points in my life. My doctor came in to the hospital and to my hospital room and visiting hours ended at 8:00. And he had checked in and he said, Tom, I know the past, couple of days haven't been going well. I really need you to start picking up your act and doing what we tell you to do, because we're here to help you. And I looked at him and I said, Steve, F you. I said, I do not want to hear your song and dance right now. I'm paralyzed from my waist down. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And I said, you have to equate this to me taking your medical license, snapping it in half and saying, you're not going to be able to practice medicine. From this moment on, you cannot practice medicine. And he just looked at me and he said, Tom, I'm only going to come back if you want to come back. If you don't want me to be a doctor, I'm done. And he walked out of the room. And I share that story because I was so bitter.
Yeah.
With life. I was angry at myself, even though I had no worries of going back. Doctor said I had a better chance to win the lottery 5 times in a row and having this happen. But I was still very bitter. And the next story I'm about to share with you happened about 20 minutes after my interaction with the doctor. Was I was sitting in my hospital bed, and like I said, visiting hours stopped at 8:00. So it's about 8, and there's a little boy that went by my room, and he was in a power wheelchair. So a power wheelchair is you can't wheel with your arms. You're basically controlling it by your tongue.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Or you see these big connectors behind someone's neck.
Yeah.
And people who are in power wheelchairs sometimes will use their head to, do the different operations of the wheelchair. So I was in a very emotional state at that point. I was hurting emotionally as well as obviously physically, but emotionally and mentally, I was just not in a good spot. So I was in my hospital bed. I did a transfer to my wheelchair. I got in my wheelchair and I wheeled myself out into the hallway, and I just wanted to talk to this kid's parents who were behind him and just ask them, what their experience, just talk to them about their journey and whatnot. So as I'm rounding the corner of the hallway to go meet this little boy and his parents, I see his father picking up his arms to hug his mother.
Oh.
And yeah. And at that point, I went back to my room and I lost it. I cried like a baby for almost 2 hours.
Oh, of course you did. Oh.
And it was a moment that I'll never forget, but it was a moment where I really pivoted my life, because the first question I asked myself was, why not you?
Mm.
I think we it's very easy for people to say, why me? But you throw it around on yourself and you say, why not you? I couldn't come up with an answer. Why not me and the other person, or why me? And so when I started to frame things like that with the why not you, everything, I do believe everything happens for a reason. I said, okay, you've been given this situation for a reason, and you can sit here, you can complain, you can swear at people, you can, be really pissed off at the world, or you can do something, help yourself, but try to create a platform that is bigger than, Thomas Smith individually, and help those that are suffering like you are from this terrible injury called paralysis. So that night, I did 6 things that really transformed my life. And I tell people I lived the first 20 years of my life with a passion, and I'm 30 years old now. And I tell people I've lived the last 10 with a purpose.
Oh, you've got me crying, by the way. Can I just say thank you? Oh my God. I'm glad I don't have to talk right now, because I'm just sitting there listening with tears. This is how I am, but I just love you so much already. And, I want to hear the 6 things you did. And I also have to ask you, did you ever just have the moment where you just screamed and yelled at God?
Oh yeah. No, I didn't want to believe. I didn't want to go on. When I had those why me moments, the first, couple of days and weeks in the hospital, I asked God, I said, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah.
And then that moment with that little boy, really, when I flipped everything around on myself and I said, why not you? I had to say, I say the term fight or flight. Mm-hmm. You can either fight through it or fly away from it. And I chose to fight through it. The unfortunate thing about paralysis is there's a lot of addiction, suicide attempts, alcoholism. I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to go down as, Tom Smith, the once great hockey player who's an alcoholic, who's a drug addict. So I did 6 things that night. And instead of, the not so nice F word that I said to the doctor, I said, you know what, you're going to come up with 3 new F words. And it's going to be.
I love this.
I had to, because I was like, it's not getting me anywhere.
I love this. Okay. What are they?
And so my 3 new F words are faith, family, and friends. Mm. And, faith meaning whether you're a extremely religious person or, not so much. I believe everyone, if you think about it, does have a faith, whether that's faith in humanity, faith in a God, what have you. Mm-hmm. I don't try to exert a certain type of religion on people. I just say you have faith in each other, that together we can do something that's bigger than ourselves and do something that you're proud of. Mm. And family, I know you can't pick your family, but I'm a believer that you can surround yourself with people who you call your family. Mm. And that's really what I've built the foundation in the last 10 years of my life on. And friends, I believe you are who you walk with. And you are who you, in the paralysis terms, you are who you roll with.
I love that.
If you will, meaning, if there's people in there that are influencing you in a not so positive way, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, that's who you're going to turn out to be. Mm-hmm. So the other 6 things that I did was I was doing a lot of whining, complaining, and quitting. So I came up with what I call my 3 Ds, and it's don't whine, don't complain, and don't quit. And, I've had the opportunity to be involved in several business ventures along with the foundation. And I think whether it's business, whether it's relationships, whether it's battling back from paralysis, if you have an attitude of not whining, not complaining, and never quitting, 3Ds with don't whine, don't complain, don't quit, I believe it's a recipe for success. And, like I said, I was able to even have the opportunity to talk to the folks at Yale because of hockey. I was a good student, but I wasn't a great student. I was a very CB average student. But when I started to apply those three things and hard work to trying to create a life for myself that was outside of hockey and outside of what I knew and what I was good at, I started to see successful results. And so I spent over a month in the hospital, and I get released from Boston Medical Center, and I've actually moved in with my aunt and uncle. Just to give the listeners an idea, if they're not familiar with New England and Boston, the houses here, it's old school. So a lot of these houses were built 100, 200 years ago. So there's steps going in, and a lot of them are elevated. So when you're in a wheelchair, it doesn't work to your favor. So my aunt and uncle had a first floor that we were able to build a small ramp for. We didn't have to go up many steps. And they were nice enough to let me move into their bottom floor. So I do that, and I get put into an outpatient program in Boston. So it's 5 days a week. And the schedule that I had with my parents was my mom would drive me typically Tuesday through Friday. And if she couldn't, a family, someone from the family would, a family friend or whatnot. But my dad would always drive me on Mondays. And so I'm starting to, go through the rehab process. It's November, Thanksgiving, December. And mind you, I'm still paralyzed from my waist down. And right before Christmas, I started getting a little action in my foot and in my toes.
Ooh.
And so for someone with paralysis, that's huge because it's the furthest extremity from your head.
Yeah.
So the furthest extremity from where your mind is telling your body to move. And it's just, it's a big step. So I knew this time around was in essence going to be a marathon, not a sprint. But I was, any movement's good movement, right? Any progress is good progress.
Yeah.
So it was, again, the best Christmas present I could have asked for. So I go into the new year, and my mindset is I need to just, fight like hell and really just try to persevere and push through and figure out how I'm going to just really capitalize on the great medical care that I'm getting and put, no pun intended, but my best foot forward and beat this thing. So we're about a week and a half in to January. It's January 11th, 2010. It was a typical cold winter morning. And my dad's driving me into therapy, and we're about 20 minutes from therapy, and we're stopped at a red light, and a couple seconds went by, and next thing I know, a car behind us was crashing into us. And a distracted driver who was on their phone hit my father's car, and the impact sent me right into the dashboard and my father into the windshield. And it seemed like an eternity until I actually decided to try to move my toes that I could move. I was so scared. And I remember hearing the ambulance coming, and there were a million, fire trucks, police cars and everything. I remember hearing the ambulance coming, and I tried to move my toes that I could, had made the progress in the past 3.5 months, and I couldn't. And so at that moment, I knew I was dealing with a third paralyzing accident. And I was rushed to Boston, and they diagnosed me with re-injuring my thoracic vertebra. And from there, I wouldn't walk for, almost 3 years.
And your father in that moment?
Unfortunately, my dad, wasn't paralyzed, but he's had 5 back surgeries since. And his ability to move around is not good. He had to, separate from his business, and he's currently on disability with the state. He doesn't have a very good quality of life. He can't even bend over and tie his shoes. Can barely get dressed. He needs assistance basically with everything.
You both are, the father of the hero who then becomes his own the two of you together, and to think what he has gone through and what you've been through, and then together. I truly don't even know that there is a story like this that I know of a human being that's been through anything close to this, Tom. And to think you are sitting here with me and you have such joy in your voice. And so it's now 2019, present day. You have this incredible foundation that is doing so much positive, amazing work. What is your quality of life today? And how were those 3 F's and those 3 D's working out?
So to answer the second part of the question, since that moment in the hospital, I've applied the 3 F's and the 3 D's to everything I've done. And I think that's attributes to a lot of the success that we've had with the foundation and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we've been able to donate. Really trying to change a culture in a sport with hockey, with the lookup line, as well as our other divisions. And, my paralysis today. So the last time I used my wheelchair was in December of 2012.
Ooh, love that. Okay.
So from there, I progressed to a walker. Then I started walking, which I currently walk with today. It's called Loft-Strand crutches. So it's got a forearm band that goes around my forearm, and then I grip the crutch, which is about 10 inches down on the actual Loft-Strand with my hand, and that's how I walk. So my paralysis now is I lack feeling and sensation in my right leg, but my left leg works pretty good. And so when you watch me walk, my right leg drags a little bit, but all things considering, I've beaten the odds. Doctors, and at least since the records in modern medicine, they have no one on record ever being paralyzed 3 separate times due to 3 separate accidents. So considering the uncharted waters that I've been in, I'm very thankful to be in the position I'm in. And, for example, like in 2015, it took me about a year and a half to do this, but I actually retrained myself how to ride a modified bike.
Ooh, really?
And, yep. So it took me, like I said, about a year and a half to do, and a lot of trial and error, a lot of falling. But again, when you get knocked down, you got to get back up. So one of my best friends and I said, we want to raise $100,000 for the Miami project to try to provide hope for those with the injury. And so we actually rode our bikes from Boston, Massachusetts to Miami. It was 31 days of riding. It took us 38 days total. But we knew that if we could successfully complete this, which we did, the media and exposure that we would get, and then that would turn into donations. And we were on the front page of the Miami Herald, Boston Globe, news stations across the country. And we did hit our goal of raising $100,000 for medical research. And, I really wanted to try to show people physically that if you, have a goal and a dream and hope, do not let anyone tell you what you can and can't do. Mm-hmm. Because when I tried to get medically cleared to ride a bike, I went through several doctors that wouldn't even touch the contract and the release form to do that. But I was able to build a team and find people that did so. And I would, what we did was not only monumental for the paralysis community, but I'm someone that likes results, and it would have been great to spread the awareness. But for me, if we didn't raise the money, it wouldn't have, not that it wouldn't have mattered, but it wouldn't have been as special, because, you need money when it comes to research. Yeah. So when we did hit the $100,000, it was huge. It was a big moment for the paralysis community.
I can't even believe I'm just still sitting here. If you could see me, my eyes are closed, Tom. My mouth is dropped, because I'm like, who does that and rides a bike without any ailments and any struggles to go from Boston to Miami, right? Like, for anybody that's sitting out there, and Tom, for those people that know me, they know I have a mantra. I choose to not live in woe is me. It's wow is me. And yeah. You are like the epitome of, we've all been through our stuff, but what you've been through takes that to another level. And you truly are my spokesperson for what I believe, right? And I'm sitting here going, What's next for you? I can't wait to follow you more. I can't wait to meet you in Boston. And I'm going to figure out a way to bring you on stage with me somewhere, because your story, people need. This is hope, Tom. God is using you. And I love that you said the first 20 years were for my passion. Since then, the last 10 and moving forward are for my purpose. I love that.
No, I would love for that. And I can't wait for you to come to Boston. It's like, when I think back to 2008 and when the doctors in Boston, when I asked them what I could and couldn't do, and you kind of asked to, what's been most current and what's next, in 2018, I should say in 2017, I knew my 10-year anniversary was coming up. And in 2018, it was the 100th Boston Marathon. And no one who's been paralyzed multiple times has even attempted this, but no one has successfully completed it. So I said, you know what? I want to become the first person that's been paralyzed multiple times to try to complete the Boston Marathon without the use of a wheelchair. And I trained for 10 months and I did it.
What's left? I mean, really, buddy, what else? What's on this list of goals? There is nothing you are not going to achieve.
I appreciate that, but it's all about, for me, breaking the boundaries and barriers for the paralysis community. We were able to raise a significant amount of money with that, and really trying to show people, because I think, my whole thing, Holly, is whether you tell yourself you can or you can't, you're right. Correct. Either way. Mm-hmm. And so for me, when doctors, I'll never forget the meeting when they said, you're never going to be able to do anything athletically at a high level with your legs. That stayed in me, and it still does. And so when that 10-year opportunity came to be, I said, you know what, I got to take it. And, I'm a forgiver, but I don't forget much. So, these things have just, been fuel to my fire. And I think, when people face adversity, it's easy to take what people say and get down, whether it's or get high, right? Whether it's positive and you're on the biggest high of your life, or it's negative and get down. I always try to take things at face value. And when I knew I was in uncharted waters, I said, you know what? How did these doctors know I'm never going to do this? And then when people said you couldn't build a foundation that would have been around for 10 years, well, how do you know? It's because you haven't done it. Doesn't mean I can't do it. So I just hope to get across to people that whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. I'm living proof of that. I know, I believe everyone has their own cross to carry. Some people's are bigger than others, but we all have our own stuff. But as long as we keep moving forward in a positive manner and just try to become, better people every day, I think that's all we can ask of each other.
You are truly, I'm going to call you something different. Yes, you're a miracle walking on earth. I'm going to call you an angel on earth. I think you are an angel on assignment, Tom. And there's a reason much bigger than you and much bigger than any of us. And you are following that calling. And I'm going to probably cry when we get done. I'm going to cry right now because I believe in life when you get to meet people. This is why I have the show, but to meet somebody like you, I don't know how you can have a bad day and how you can, I totally agree with everything you've said. And I do believe that if you believe it, it will happen. If you can't, you won't do it. If you can, you will. And you are that walking example of this. So can you please tell all of the listeners, look at me, I'm holding back the tears right now. I mean, they're tears of gratitude. They're tears of joy of knowing that people like you exist, that we can say, wow, if he can do it, so can I, right? What would you love? Tell us how people can reach out to you. Tell us how we can support the foundation. Tell us what's coming up next, because I want everybody that's listening, and I myself, I want to spread the news. What can we do to keep supporting and building? This is about awareness. Do you know you taught me a lot? I feel educated as well as now on fire to want to help support. So how can we do that?
Sure. No, I really appreciate that, Holly. So if people want to, through the web, it's the Thomas E. Smith Foundation. Our website's justcureparalysis.org. My story's on there. We have, a contact page. So all the emails that go through the website come directly to me, as well as my co-founder. And we have a donate link on there. If some of your listeners do want to donate, that's available. And we're really trying to build out our platform for 2020. And, I have to make a decision about, if I am going to try to do the marathon again. We have an amazing partnership with the Boston Bruins, which is the NHL team in Boston. So we're going to be holding several initiatives with them. And we're going to be doing, which we'll be highlighting on our website in the next couple, I should say the next month or two, there'll be new grant recipients on there. My whole thing with the foundation is we want people to see exactly where their money goes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great charities out there, but not always they let you know where your money goes. So for us, we're a volunteer organization. No one's on salary. We all do this out of the goodness of our heart. And we want to show people when a dollar's given to us, where does it go? So we're going to be making tens of thousands of dollars in grants to probably 4 to 6, I would say, individuals that are suffering from paralysis between now and Thanksgiving. We'll be updating the website with that so people can see where their money goes. And then in December, we'll be launching our news on what's going to be happening in 2020.
I love it. I love it all. And I can't wait to keep following you, supporting you. Oh, Tom, I'm telling you, you're an angel on assignment. That's it. And so thank you for being you. And thank you for taking this and making a difference for so many lives. And I'm just going to make this commitment live on this show, but I'm also going to be making some introductions to you and some very dear friends in Boston that are all about very, very big, successful people that love to find ways to give back. So just hang on, because I'm going to be making some introductions. Okay?
Holly, you are awesome. And I love what you do with your program and the different people that you bring on, and that it provides a sense of hope and inspiration. And just thank you for the opportunity. This has been amazing.
You're so welcome, my friend. I will see you in Boston soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Holly.
All right. Bye, Tom. Bye. Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.